I am 24 years old now. As a kid my parents were strict forbidding me from watching any show/movie with real humans, so basically I got no idea from where my nightmares came from. My nightmare since I was 6 to 7 was always the same one. I was inside a big maze with different levels. It was like a fantasy horror dungeon. It was filled with monsters that would hunt me down while I could just hide and run. Sometimes I would find allies like my friends and family inside the maze, only to lose them in front of me while I ran away like a coward. I remember that I couldn't leave the maze at all unless I clear a level or die to a monster. The strangest thing was how organized my nightmare was. If I had died the previous time, then I would continue in that same level from the start. The type of monsters I faced were all different, and I never heard about such monsters in shows/stories or books. For example, the monster who took my parents from me was a robotic dog that had an infinite large stomach, and it could suck you in and spit you out, turning you into a cyber-type zombie. I remember that level very good since it was the most traumatic one for me. I was basically in a maze that looked like a shaft system. I remember running away from mummies, zombies, weird chimera-type monsters, type of poisonous insects or reptiles. It was a mix of every type of horror figure I could think of. I got really paranoid after a certain time, since sleep meant the nightmare for me, so I tried my best to stay awake, but my dad would force me to sleep while I was afraid to do it. Basically, as a kid I was awake until 2 to 3 a.m. almost every day and getting not enough sleep. My days were filled with torture and my nights were nightmares. I lived that way until I was 13. I somehow managed to get to the last level of that maze, thinking it would end finally. As I was rushing towards my goal, I realized it was a dead end and that it was my fate to be always stuck in this dream with no way of escaping. After I was giving up, I was approached by my worst nightmare. It was a shadow with red eyes. It was so evil none of the other monsters dared to come close to its territory. That monster solely existed to give me pain and suffering for all time, killing me in a maze that would respawn me in an endless loop. I had nowhere to hide, no one to help me, nothing to give me hope anymore. I was at the end. The shadow was about to kill me when I started laughing like a madman. The thought of dying here forever had changed my sadness to fury. I was so mad that I didn't care anymore. Since I knew that I would respawn, so I started to fight for the first time, and it had beaten me half dead with broken ribs and spitting blood. It was enjoying my pain, but I didn't care and stood up. I rushed towards it to tackle. But it had stabbed me in the gut. I was dying. After fury I felt something else for the first time. I was actually happy, since I could always come back and try until I killed everything. Upon that realization I went deeper into my madness. Actually my madness transformed into evil itself, since my head was filled on how to torture those monsters and my resolve to get revenge. Somehow I found the strength to stand up while sending out my penetrating bloodlust towards the shadow, which paralyzed it. The shadow, my worst nightmare, got scared from my evil self. I was healed and capable of doing anything. With a snap I had destroyed all monsters, clearing the maze. After that I woke up feeling different. I used to be shy and nervous. My behavior had changed to being cold and emotionless. I felt evil since I had beaten the worst evil with my evil aura. My dreams had changed. I never once had a nightmare anymore. TBH, I lost the feeling of fear. My dreams had still some kind of horror in them, but I was bored from those. Nothing felt like a nightmare. I wanted to experience nightmares again. I wanted to see the expression monsters would make if they saw how cruel I would slaughter them. Somehow I became sadistic and my mind was filled mindless destruction. I know this makes me sound like a psycho and everyone around me would call me one too, but thankfully I love justice more than anything. Those who spread injustice though I wouldn't mind slicing apart. Hope you enjoyed.